Hi everyone, my name's Matt, and today we're going to build and set up a media server for around $200 that would allow you to host and stream your own media through jellyfin, basically making your own personal Netflix. What's cool is because this is a home server, it means you'd be able to do a ton of other things with it, like host a Minecraft server, hosting your own cloud storage, and even get it to do tasks like auto backing up the photos from your phone. Plus, setting it up is relatively easy thanks to a few key pieces of software that we'll be installing to configure and manage our media server. Now, you could buy individual parts and build a custom server, but at this budget, I think the best approach is to buy an old pre-built system and upgrade it to fit our needs. What I was looking for was an Intel-based pre-built with the 7th gen or newer CPU and support for at least two 3.5-inch hard drives and two SSDs. Mainly, I was looking at 7th and 8th gen i5 systems and stumbled upon this one here. This HP Engage Flex I was able to get for $85 with free shipping, and it'll work amazingly for this project. Now, there aren't many of these exact models available on eBay right now, so let me show you a few other examples of systems you could go for. So I quickly found a couple of other systems that could work for a project like this one. The first is this Dell Precision 3620. For $85, it's got an i5 7500, 8 gigs of RAM, and looking at the pictures, we can see there's room for two 3.5-inch hard drives. Also, pulling up a picture of its motherboard shows there's 4 SATA ports and 1 M.2 slot, so this system should work fine. This is another one that would work. It's got an i3 8100, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256GB SSD. We can see internally it has 3 hard drive bays, and looking at the motherboard, we can see this one also has 4 SATA ports and 1 M.2 slot. With that being said, at $130, I don't think this is a great deal, so definitely hunt around for a base system if you're on a tight budget. So after about a week of waiting, my HP Engage Flex landed on my doorstep, and opening it up, I found it packed decently well, with the only visible damage being some scratches that are cosmetic and were clearly visible in the listing. So let's open it up and show you why this system is great for this project. Squeezing the latch and hinging the side panel up reveals the internals. On the bottom left, we find a 250 watt 80 plus platinum rated power supply, which can hinge out to reveal a 3.5-inch drive bay beneath it. To the right of this is a drive cage that can hold a 3.5-inch hard drive along with a 5.25-inch drive, which you could use an adapter to put a third hard drive or even throw in a CD drive for ripping DVDs and Blu-rays. This cage also hinges out, and above it we can remove this shroud to reveal the heatsink and 92mm fan. Pulling out this PCIe adapter card, unscrewing the heatsink, lifting it up, and wiping off the old thermal paste reveals the included Intel Core i5-8500. This is a 6-core, 6-thread CPU with turbo speeds of up to 4.1 GHz. This is a little overkill for a basic media server, but the extra CPU horsepower can go to running other services like file hosting and game servers. The real reason I wanted a 7th gen or newer Intel CPU is the UHD graphics on these CPUs support hardware transcoding for all the popular video codecs, with the exception of AV1, which isn't a big deal. With the cooler off, I also just replaced the thermal paste and reinstalled the cooler. Now, the motherboard this CPU is sitting in is a big reason why this HP Engage Flex is great for a home server. It has 4 DIMM slots, and it came populated with a single 8GB stick of DDR4 memory. It has 3 SATA ports and an impressive amount of PCIe expansion. There are dual NVMe M.2 slots, 2 full-size PCIe slots, one at X16 and one at X4. There's 3 X4 slots that run at X2, and the middle one is where you can plug this adapter board in for 2 more X1 slots. Now, I'm not sure if all these slots can be used at the same time, but this does mean there are a ton of possibilities for future expansion through the use of stuff like GPUs, network cards, or even HBAs. So this base system was $85, meaning I have about $115 to make some upgrades. The first order of business was finding some hard drives for mass storage. I was aiming to get 2 drives that were at least a few terabytes each and weren't too old. After looking around for a bit, I settled on a pair of 3TB WD Red drives that were manufactured in 2019 and ended up being $75 with free shipping for the pair. They came from a reputable seller on eBay and were stated as fully working. I didn't do it, but you can always ask the seller for smart data or stats like power on time if you want. They came packed reasonably well, and I made sure to immediately test each drive in Crystal Disk Mark and look at their stats in Crystal Disk Info, which thankfully everything looked good to me. So I went ahead and plugged in the drives one at a time and just pressure fit them into the 2 slots for now. If I was running the system long term, I would at bare minimum zip tie these down, or ideally purchase and use the original mounting hardware. So with the mass storage figured out, I next needed to look for some SSDs. I'm going to be running Truenas on the system, which is an awesome OS for a server like this, but it has the downside of needing a dedicated boot drive that only the OS lives on. This drive doesn't need to be big at all, and actually after doing some looking around, I found you can use these 16GB Intel Optane drives, which are like $5 a pop on eBay. They're enterprise grade and rock solid while also being extremely cheap. If this wasn't an option, I probably would have went for the smallest SATA SSD I could find, or even run dual USB drives for the OS, which isn't recommended but I have seen work. Now, this OS drive won't have any redundancy, but that's alright because we'll download the config file in case of a drive failure. Next, I wanted an SSD to run applications like Jellyfin off of. I ended up just using a random 256GB NVMe drive I had on hand, but if I didn't have this one, I would have grabbed a new 256GB drive off of Amazon for $22, so I'll use that price of $22 in the budget. Also, ideally, we would have used redundant SSDs for our apps, but we will back this drive up to the hard drive storage pool, which should work out fine. These 2 SSDs are installed in the 2 M.2 slots and were secured with 2 screws I stole from this add-on card right here. The last upgrade to make was just grabbing an identical 8GB stick to the one already in the system for a little over $10, which will give us 16GB of DDR4 memory running in dual channel operation, with the option to upgrade to 32GB in the future. When we add up the $85 for the system, $75 for the hard drives, $27 for the SSDs, and $10.50 for the RAM, we get a total of $197.50, which is right below the $200 budget, but it's also worth noting I used 2 SATA cables and some thermal paste I had on hand, which if I had to buy would have brought the price to above $200, not by much, but it is worth noting. Parts wise, I think I did a pretty good job with such a limited budget, but let me know what you guys think of this configuration in the comments below. So now that you understand what hardware I'm going with, it's time to talk about installing the OS, configuring the server, and setting up Jellyfin to stream media. But before we get any further, I want to take a minute to talk about the sponsor of today's video, FlexiSpot, along with their E7 Plus standing desk and auto-incline walking treadmill. The E7 Plus with its 4 legs, dual motors, and insane range of motion make it, in my opinion, the ultimate standing desk. It has a weight capacity of 540 pounds and is mind-bendingly sturdy, meaning it also acts as a great workbench. All this combined with FlexiSpot's industry-leading 15-year warranty on the frame, motors, and electronics means you can rest assured this desk will last for years to come. The auto-incline walking treadmill offers 9 levels of incline adjustment, a weight capacity of 275 pounds, and Bluetooth connectivity for immersive music playback. Using an underdesk treadmill is an awesome way of getting a bunch of steps in while working, gaming, or even just consuming content. This treadmill is also great as the built-in wheels and handle make it easy to set up and put away. Also, the ability to store it upright means it has a very small footprint when not in use. FlexiSpot has a huge lineup of desks and office accessories for basically any budget, so to check out the E7 Plus, auto-incline treadmill, or any of FlexiSpot's awesome products, make sure to head to the link in the description to check them out. Thanks again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to your regularly scheduled content. So software-wise, there are a number of different ways you could go. I'm going with Truenas Scale because it's pretty easy to use and it's what I'm most familiar with. To install Truenas, you will need a USB drive and another computer to make this a bootable USB installer. So plug in your USB drive to your PC and let's get it set up. To make the bootable USB, we'll need a couple of things. The first is the Truenas Scale ISO, and to get that, all you have to do is head to the link in the description, which will bring you to this page. You can go down to here and select no thank you, I've already signed up. Then you can select to download the stable version. Once you've done that, it will start to download and it might take a little bit of time because it is around 2 GB. The other thing you'll need is a way to flash it to your USB drive, so you can go ahead and get something like Balena Etcher, which you can download again at the link in the description. Just download the version for the type of computer that you're using. For me, it's Windows. And once that's downloaded, you can go ahead and open it up. With Balena Etcher open, we can go ahead and select Flash from File. And we can just select our Truenas ISO that we just downloaded. Next, we can select the target, which is going to be our USB drive. For me, it's this SanDisk 64 gig drive. I'm going to select it. And once that's selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit flash. And it'll go ahead and create the bootable USB drive. Now you want to make sure you have nothing important on that USB, as it is going to be erased during the flashing process. And after a few minutes, once it's done, it'll say flash complete. We can go ahead and exit out of Balena Etcher, eject our USB drive, and bring it over to our new media server. Once you've ejected your drive, you can bring it over to your new server, which ideally you'll do this part where the server is going to live, and you'll need it hooked up to a monitor along with a keyboard and Ethernet cable. We'll first need to disable Secure Boot, which is required to install Truenas, and to do that, we'll need to get into the BIOS, which for this particular PC requires me to turn it on, then immediately start smashing the delete key. So now that I am into the BIOS, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the Advanced tab, and then I'm going to go down to Secure Boot Configuration and hit Enter. On the Configure Legacy Support and Secure Boot option, I'm going to press Enter, and then I'm going to go down and select the Legacy Support Disable and Secure Boot Disable and hit Enter. Now I'm going to go back over to the main tab right here and go down to the Save Changes and Exit option and hit Enter. Then I'm going to hit yes to confirm my changes that I made. Now it should reboot and boot into that USB installer. Alright, so now that we've made it to this screen here, we are ready to install Truenas Scale onto our system. There's going to be these two options right here, and you're just going to select the top one that says Start Truenas Scale Installation. Then you just want to go ahead and let it do its thing for a minute. And once we've reached this screen here, we're going to select the first option to install/upgrade. And on this screen here, we're going to select the drive or drives that we want to install Truenas Scale onto. So as you can see, I've got my 16GB Intel Optane, I've got my 256GB NVMe drive, and I've got my two 3TB WD Red drives. So I'm going to select the Intel Optane drive by, once I've keyed over it, I'm going to press the spacebar, and then I'm going to hit Enter. And then this is just giving you a warning that it's going to erase any information that's on the drive. I'm okay with that, so I'm going to go ahead and press yes by hitting enter. Then on this page, we're going to select the top option by just hitting enter. Then we can go ahead and enter in a good password for the admin account. Once you've entered it in, you can just press tab to bring you to the next option and then enter it in again. And then tab down to OK and hit enter. Then at this point, it's just going to go through and install Truenas Scale onto that drive. So now that we've made it to this screen, it means that Truenas Scale has successfully installed onto our SSD. So what we can do now is reboot the system, and we can remove the boot USB so that it will be able to boot right into Truenas Scale off of the SSD. After the system restarts and boots into Truenas, it'll give us an IP address that you can write down, and we'll use this to access the server from another PC on our network. Alright, we're back at our main PC. I've got the browser open, and I'm going to go ahead and input the IP address that I wrote down just a second ago, which is 192.168.0.89, and I'm going to hit enter. This is going to bring us to the Truenas login screen, and we're going to go ahead and enter Truenas_admin, and then the password that we created earlier, and then just hit enter. Alright, we are now in the Truenas Scale dashboard, and this is customizable with these different widgets. It'll give you information like CPU usage, memory usage, and to change it up, you can press configure up here. I'm not going to mess around with that right now, but you can play around with it if you'd like. Now, the first thing we're going to do is set a static IP address by going over to this network tab right here. Then under the network interface, we're going to hit this edit button right here. We're going to deselect DHCP, which is basically the automatic assigned IP address to our system. Then under here, we're going to add an alias, which is going to be the new IP address. Now, to figure out what IP address to use, you ideally want to use one outside of your DHCP range. The way you'd find that ideally is by going to your router interface. So this default route is going to be the router IP address. So we can go right here. We can paste in that address. and we can sign in. Then in the settings, you're gonna find something that says, like right here, DHCP server. I'm gonna click on that. Right here under DHCP server, this is the IP address pool that it will automatically assign to devices which end in 0.2 to 0.253. So as long as we use something outside of that range, we're going to be good. For example, 0.254 or whatever number outside of that range is going to be easy for you to remember. So going back to the Truenas interface, again, we're going to hit edit. We're going to deselect DHCP. We're going to add an alias, and we're going to pick an IP address. So for this, I do 192.168.0.254, which is one above that range. Then we're going to do /24 and then hit save. We're going to hit skip right here, and then we're going to hit test changes. I'm going to confirm and then hit test changes. And then we can go over to a new tab and go to 192.168.0.254, hit enter. And then we can sign in. And then once signed in, we can go back to network and we can hit save changes. Once that's done, we'll need to go into this global configuration and hit settings. Under name server 1, we can use Cloudflare, which is 1.1.1.1. And for the backup, we could use something like Google, which is 8.8.8.8. And the default gateway is going to be our router's IP address, which is 192.168.0.1. And then I'm going to hit save. And with that, our IP address is all set up. Now I'm recording this later, so I'm actually going to change this back to the one it defaulted me to, which is the 0.89, just because that way it will be consistent throughout this whole video. But for you, if you're doing this at the beginning like you should, unlike me, then you should set it to something that is outside of your DHCP range. With our static IP address now set up, we're going to want to set our time zone by going to System, then under General Settings, and then under Localization, you're going to hit Settings, and then change it to whatever it is for you. For me, it is America/New York, and then I'm going to hit Save. And with that, we can go back to our dashboard and start setting up our storage. So the first thing we're going to do is make a user account for ourselves. So I'm going to go under Credentials and then go to Users. Then in the top right corner, I'm going to press the Add button. I'm going to give this user a name. For me, it's just going to be Matt. I'm going to give the user a password. And then I'm going to confirm that password. Everything else we should be able to keep the same. We want to make sure this SMB user is selected, and then I'm going to press save. And our user is successfully added. And now we can make our storage pools. So we're going to go over to this storage tab right here. As you can see, we don't have any pools, so we're going to hit the create pool button. Now we're going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it storage. Hit next. For layout, I'm going to do mirror so that it's got one drive of capacity and the other one for redundancy in case one fails. Now, if you had like 3 or 4 drives, you might consider doing RAID Z1 or RAID Z2, but because we just have 2 hard drives, I'm going to go with mirror. Then under disk size, we're going to select the hard drive. We're going to keep the width as 2 and the number of VDEVs as 1, and then I'm going to hit save and go to review. Everything looks good right here, so I'm going to hit the create pool button. I'm going to confirm, and then I'm going to hit continue. And now it's going to create the pool. Now, as you can see, we have our main storage pool, and we're going to create a second storage pool by hitting this create pool button in the top right. I'm going to name this one apps because this is where all the applications are going to live. I'm going to hit next. So we're selecting Stripe. It has our SSD automatically selected, width of 1, number of VDEVs 1, and it gives you warning that if this drive fails, you might lose data, but I'm going to show you how to back up this apps drive onto the main storage pool later in the video. I'm going to hit save and go to review, and then I'm going to hit the create pool button. I'm going to confirm it and hit continue. With that done, we now have our app storage pool and our main storage pool. So we're going to go over to the dataset tab right here. We're going to select the storage pool, and then we're going to select the add dataset button. We're going to be creating two datasets. So for this one, I'm going to name it storage_main. And then under the data preset, we're going to change it to SMB. And then we're going to hit the save button. I'm going to wait 1 second to start the SMB service. So for now, I'm going to hit no. And then under storage, I'm going to add another data set. And this one's going to be for our media. So I'm going to call it storage_media. This is also going to be an SMB share. I'm going to hit the save button. Now at this point, I will start the SMB service by hitting the start button. Alright, with those two datasets made, we're going to have to edit the permissions. So with the storage_main, we're going to scroll down to permissions and hit the edit button. And under access control entry, we're going to again go to user. We're going to select the user Matt. I'm going to hit save access control list. And then we're going to go back into storage_media permissions again. We're going to go, instead of user, we're going to do group. And we're going to search for the group apps. Select that. And then I'm going to go ahead again and press save access control list. Now that we have these two made, we can open up our file explorer. And up in the top here, we can do //192.168.0.89 and hit enter. And then it's going to ask for our credentials. So I'm going to type in the username and password that I made. As you can see, we've got our two data sets right here, storage main and storage media. So I'm going to test out the storage main first. I'm going to grab a random 4 gig file and throw it over here. Press OK and let it transfer over. As you can see, the gigabit connection and these hard drives aren't going to be the fastest ever, but for a media server like this one, it's going to work perfectly fine. And with that, the file is transferred. We can open it up and we are reading the file off of the server right now. Going back, we're going to open up the storage media and we're going to create two folders. The first folder we're going to call movies. And the second folder I'm going to call series. And the movies folder will hold your movies and the series folder will hold your series. And in a little bit, we'll point Jellyfin towards these folders so it knows where to look for the content. So to test this out, I'll go ahead and transfer over a random movie that we'll use to test out Jellyfin in a little bit. And that transferred over just fine, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize out of the file explorer. And we're now going to go to the apps tab to set up our apps. In this app section, we're going to go to the configuration and we're going to select choose pool. Then we're going to select the apps pool and we're going to hit choose. And then we're going to give it a minute to configure the app pool. With that done, you can see we have no applications installed, so we can go to the Discover Apps button right here and click it. And as you can see, there are 213 available apps. And if we select the Show All button, you'll be able to see the list of all the different apps that are available. There's stuff like Home Assistant for home automation. There's Image, which is a way to back up the photos from your phones and other devices for free on your server. There's Jellyfin, which we will download in 1 second. There's a few different ways of installing and managing Minecraft servers like MineOS and also Crafty controllers on here. And there's also apps like Nextcloud to make this basically like your own personal cloud that you can access from anywhere. The only app I'm going to be directly setting up in this video is Jellyfin, but in the description, I'm going to point you to a bunch of different tutorials on how to set up these different apps, along with a tutorial on ways that you can procure and automate the procurement of content if you are wanting to sail the 7 seas. But we're going to scroll back up to Jellyfin. We're going to select Jellyfin. We're going to select the install button. We're going to confirm this is a third-party application. We're going to hit agree. We're going to scroll down and we're going to leave pretty much everything default. We're going to go down to the storage section. We're going to ignore this part right here. That's going to just automatically do it for us. And under additional storage, we're going to press the add button. Under type, we're going to change it to host path. Mount path, we're going to do /media. And then under host path, we're going to select storage. Under storage, we're going to select media. Then scrolling down, under resource configuration, you can give it more CPU threads or memory if you want. I'm going to leave it by default. And then importantly, under GPU configuration, unless you have an NVIDIA GPU installed that you're going to want to use for transcoding, you're going to want to select this pass-through available GPUs. And then we're going to hit the install button and let it do its thing. And once it's done that, it's going to go ahead and deploy our jellyfin server. And then once it says running right here, we can select the web UI option over here. And we're going to go ahead and configure jellyfin. I'm going to select my preferred language, which is English, and hit next. I'm going to give myself a username. Again, I'm going to call myself Matt and give myself a password. And then once that's done, I'm going to hit next. And it's going to ask us now to set up our media library. I'm going to select the add media library button, content type, movies, display name movies. Then we're going to press this plus button next to folders. We're going to scroll down to this /media, and then we're going to select the movies folder and hit OK. And then we're going to hit OK. Then we're going to go ahead and add another media library. This one is going to be shows. Again, you can call it shows or series or whatever you want. And again, we're going to select the folder, go down to media, go down to series, and hit OK. And then hit OK again. And you can divide this even more. You could do like TV shows, series, anime, so on and so forth if you want to subdivide things down further. But for me, just movies and shows works perfectly fine. I'm going to hit the next button. The preferred metadata language, English and United States, is good with me, so I'm going to hit next. Under setup remote access, I'm going to leave this to the default and hit next. And then we're all done, so I'm going to hit finish. And then if we want to access our content on this PC or any PC, we can go to 192.168.0.89:30013. We can enter our username and our password, and then we're in. All right, before we test a movie or anything, we need to go to the top left menu right here and then go to the dashboard. Under playback, we need to go to transcoding. Under hardware acceleration, we want to do Intel QuickSync. And we can leave everything to default and just scroll down and hit the save button. And this is just saying it might cause instability, but we definitely want to have it enabled, so I'm going to hit got it. Settings saved. And I'm actually switched over to Chrome now because for some reason a lot of the codecs don't work inside of Firefox. So I'm going to select movies, I'm going to select our movie, and I'm going to hit play. We can see that this full 4K movie is playing just fine. We can skip around, and it looks great. So now jellyfin is successfully set up. At this point, you can add whatever other apps you want. There's stuff like Image for backing up your photos, basically your own self-hosted Google Photos. There's Nextcloud for self-hosted cloud storage. There's a number of different ways to run game servers like Crafty Controller or MineOS for Minecraft. And like I was saying before, there are even apps to help automate the procurement of content that I'm not going to go over in this video, but I'll leave a link to an explanation of how that all works from one of my previous videos in the description, as well as tutorial on how to set it all up. Both of those links will be in the description, along with links how to set up any of the recommended apps that I just talked about. Now, there are a few more things we need to do before I will consider this basic server setup all done. To start doing those, we're going to go to this data protection tab right here. Now this page has a bunch of ways of backing up and protecting your data. Some stuff I'd recommend looking into that I'm not going to go over in this video is stuff like cloud backups for any data that's truly irreplaceable. You want it backed up in multiple locations, as well as stuff like periodic smart tests that you can do long or short smart tests. I'll leave some information on that in the description. The thing I'm going to be showing you guys right now is how to back up that apps pool into our main storage pool. Now, before we set up that replication task, we do need to make another data set. So we'll go back to the dataset tab, and then under our main storage pool, we're going to hit add dataset. And I'm just going to call this apps underscore backup. And I'm just going to leave this as a generic dataset and then hit save. Then I'm going to go back to the data protection tab. I'm going to go down to this replication tasks and hit the add button. We're going to select the source location, so where the data is that we want backed up. So it's on this system. We're going to press this down arrow here. We're going to select the apps pool because we want to back up the entire apps pool. Then under destination location, we're going to select again on this system. Then we're going to go in and select that apps underscore backup dataset that we just made. We can name this task down here. I'm going to call it apps backup, and then I'm going to hit next. When I'm going to have it run on a schedule, say we want it to happen daily, but we don't want it at 12 a.m. We can do this custom schedule button right here. We can select the daily preset. We can select, say, 4 hours for it to run at 4 a.m. We can see up here. And you can even select stuff like days of the week and months of the year that you want to do it. I'm just going to leave it as to do every day at 4 a.m. I'm going to hit done. Under destination snapshot lifetime, how long do you want to keep these snapshots for? For me, I think 2 weeks would be plenty. Now, it's not like each time it's a snapshot, it's going to be backing up the entire thing again and again and again. Each snapshot is just going to have what's different from the last one. And again, for me, 2 weeks is fine, but you can change it to whatever you want. And I'm going to hit save. Then I'm going to refresh this page. And we can see this periodic snapshot test showing up right here. The next runs in 18 hours. And this is where we'd go if we wanted to edit it and change stuff like the snapshot lifetime as well as the schedule. I'm going to hit save. Now, if we want to run a manual snapshot, what we can do is press this run job button right here. And we can hit continue. And we can see replication apps backup has started. State success. And now that we have our single apps drive backing up to the pool, there's only one more important thing left to do, which is go to System, go to General Settings, press this Manage Configuration button, and then hit Download File. And it will download the config file which you want to store in a safe place. That way, if for some reason your boot drive fails, all you have to do is install a new fresh install of Truenas Scale, and then you can import this config file right here and it will bring back all your settings and configurations you had from before. And with that, our new $200 media server is set up, ready to serve content, and even be configured further for other services. In terms of where to get the actual media for your server, many people will rip the video files off of DVDs and Blu-rays that they own, and a lot of other people will procure their movies and shows online in various ways. There's a whole suite of apps that you can install on Truenas that will help with that, which again, I'll link info on below. All in all, for $200, I think this server turned out pretty good, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think of it in the comments below. So yeah guys, I think it's time to wrap this video up. Thanks again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check them out in the links in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, and as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.